What's up? I'm Ayisha Jaffer, weekday host on The Current, and I'm hanging out with Gigi Perez.
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here.
And you're on tour. It's so exciting. You're going to be going on tour also with Girl in Red, but you have your own headlining shows that are selling out, including Here's been sold out for a long time. What is that? I mean, what does that feel like?
It's surreal. It's been such a blessing. I didn't expect the end of this year to turn the way that it has, so I'm just super excited.
We're so excited that you're here. And so for those who couldn't get a ticket, I want you to sort of take like your narrative of the origin story of like how music entered your life.
Right. It all started with doing like little plays, when I was in elementary school, and my older sister, she really loved music and Disney and all that kinds of stuff. And so I kind of was like, I'm just going to go do that. I tried out for like soccer teams or whatever, and I failed. And I was like, by failed, I mean I didn't get in. And I was like, okay, that's not the path. I thought I could just buy a soccer ball and like try to learn how to play, and the next day be good at it, but no. And so I stuck with music, and it's something that continued to grow in my life. I just did a lot of things related to music in school, and then once I discovered guitar and piano, that was when it really took off, and I was like, this is incredible. And it just never went away. It's like so many nights at 4 a.m. that eventually I was 17 and I was like, ooh, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And this seems like the only thing that I can do. You know?
Yeah. It's like in your blood almost. It's attached to you, and now it's stuck. And I have to ask, because I mean, like you mentioned plays, like you got to name some of these plays.
Oh my God. Okay. The first play that I was ever in, I was the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
There's like this crazy Facebook photo that my mom has, and it's like Gigi and Alice in Wonderland. Like it's just like such an insane, like horrible quality. Like it's amazing. I was in high school. I was in like one of my favorite plays probably is Titanic. The Titanic, the musical, was really beautiful. And I also really love like Light in the Piazza. And of course, like the first Broadway show was Wicked. Like I was really like in the scene like that.
Yeah, and so this sort of like attached to you in this way and like influenced you in a beautiful way. So, and you sort of touched on it. Was it just like a feeling where you were like, okay, well, what am I going to do? This is what I need to do.
I think that it was something kind of on the back burner for a while because I just was doing it because I was having fun doing it. And I didn't believe at the time when I started writing songs, not even that I believed, I knew that, I didn't have the skill set. It was all very light and fun, and it was somewhere to express the things that I was dealing with that I couldn't tell anybody, and just struggling with my sexuality. And that was a really big issue in my life. And so when I got to just write about it, that is what it was for me. And then I think when I started to see certain growth, I noticed my voice was changing, and there seemed to be like a tonal puberty that I was going through. And my register and all those things I was like, oh, this is like, something is changing. And it seems that the love that I have for it is manifesting outward in a way that it's like finally sounding like how I feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so
it's like a vessel, an outlet, and your communication in a way, right?
Yeah.
And so you found ways to do that. You self-taught yourself, right? To guitar and piano, and as well as voice work?
Voice, I needed a lot of help with that. Sonia Santiago.
Shout out.
Yeah, she trained me.
That's incredible. But it's so incredible. And then the other thing is, I know you record and produce as well. And was that because of something you were interested in, or like a little bit of a necessity, or a mix of both of those things maybe?
I think, well, early on when I started working on music, the first song that I ever put out was on SoundCloud, and it was with my friends from this band that we had in high school called Wendy Lane. And so my friend Coco had this application called Ableton. And so it was the first time I was introduced to it. We started making songs together, and we created this band called Wendy Lane. We had put out a few songs. So throughout the process, it was mainly Aiden and Coco that were, doing those things, but I would get on and I learned how to record my own vocals. And it was kind of like a slower process for me when it came to it. Like I knew how to do my demos and all that kind of stuff. In the last year, I really took, like, I hit kind of a wall where I felt like there was something not being, there was like just something missing in the music creation process. And, you know, I moved back home. I left the record deal I was in at the time. And so it was truly like a divine opportunity for me to learn how to do it because I had wanted to for so long. And I think after a while, and every artist is different because I'm really grateful for the collaborations that I've had and the people I've gotten to work with and continue to work with. But I think that there was something when you're relying on people versus choosing people to work with, that's where like I was. And you're also just not having fun because there's just so much inside of you.
Yeah.
So now it's a whole different story. And like, it's so much fun, you know, and I love it. And I know how things work for me now.
Well, and like you said, you know, you started to feel that like you were communicating what was inside into this music. So having more control over it probably even made that even better.
Yeah. It definitely was. I think, you know, I grew up on the laptop as a lot of people my age did. And so it's kind of like when I'm recording a song, it's my playtime. It's like I'm playing on the computer. That's how it feels.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Well, you might not be surprised, but we are playing Sailor Song, and we were going because this is like the movie part of like your journey right now in my perspective, right? I'm the outside perspective, but we were in there going through metrics because I was like, I'm sure it's changed. I mean, you entered the Billboard Hot 100. And then right now today, number 33, you're barreling towards top 20 in our neighbors of the North in Canada, number 6 on the streaming charts, and up and up and up you go. And I'm kind of wondering for you, like seeing that, like how does that feel? But then also how does that translate into reality for you right now?
You know, I think around a year ago today, I was in a really difficult spot, but like a spot where, like, as earlier we were talking, a whole, like, space was made, room was made in my life, because I was moving back home, because I was starting from scratch as an independent artist again. None of these things that are happening right now did I ever think would come together a year later. And I think I know why, in a way, it's happening. And part of that is just because I absolutely fell in love with music again in a way that I have so much autonomy and so much care for what I'm putting out and the way that I'm creating. And the last thing on my mind really was any sort of physical, like, major success. Because I mean, it blows my mind. It's crazy. Like when I see, you know, the charts and stuff, it blows my mind. But I think I just spent time online and really connected with the small community that I had been making all those years. That I think at one point it was hard for me to really feel connected to the people and to the supporters. And this year that really changed, you know, because, you know, I think when you have that space and there's no outside influences and you're also struggling with so many things and trying to know yourself and your identity and all, you know, the whole thing, I think, like, it just came from a place of reprioritizing what mattered to me and then watching that physically manifest in reality. And so I think the way that it just manifests for me now every day is I just feel really grateful and aware of the people that I meet and the people that I see in real life or in my messages. I feel like I carry it differently. And I also know that all of this is amazing, but it's also temporary, and that's not like a bad thing. Does that make sense? Like, absolutely. I think like there's like a whole sensation, like a sensational aspect to success. And, you know, I had a song a few years ago and the whole thing. I feel very grateful and yet unattached to it, if that makes sense. As long as I'm connecting with people, I'm happy.
That's beautiful. And we're going to talk about that more later on, because I think that's what sets you apart, truly. You really do connect with the people in a very genuine way. And there's this like vulnerability that we all hear in this music, and it feels somewhat autobiographical. And I do love this story too, where you were tooling around with this song in your bedroom and your little sis was like, yeah.
Literally, she always catches it. She's always right and she always catches it.
She needs to show, just wanted to give her some credit.
Exactly. Thank you, Bella.
She's got a good ear.
She does.
But, because it's so autobiographical, I have to ask, so did you really see a woman who looked like Anne Hathaway? And the follow-up question, like, this is almost like a shout out, is like, has Anne reached out yet?
Oh, that's crazy. Did she look like Anne Hathaway in her beauty?
Yeah.
I feel like the essence Anne Hathaway is that beauty.
Yes.
It's like that kind of beauty.
Yes.
And then no, Anne Hathaway hasn't reached out, but
and
you know where to find me.
Gigi's waiting. Well, I mean, we talked about this just a little bit before, but I have noticed that you connect with your audience, your community in such a beautiful way. And this music is very personal, and you invite them in to the conversation, and not every artist does that. And you do it in such this incredible way. And I'm just wondering, like, did this organically happen, or is there some motivation being that connected with your audience? Because, I mean, I just think it's really cool.
I think one of the things that I think of when you said that is when I lost my sister in 2020 in July. That experience really created some serious isolation in my life and how I moved around with people, especially initially, that blow. And I spent a lot of times at night crying out to whatever it is, and I feel like I'm very vocal about the way I feel about faith and, working through it, kind of trying to figure out what it is, because I grew up with a very strong sense of God, and, I was raised that way, and I 100% believed it like the back of my hand. And I think throughout the experience of losing people and just, existing in the world and seeing the horrors of reality, it's really caused me to question and doubt everything that I ever knew. And I'm still going through that. But I think one of the things that I had asked was to not let this unbelievable amount of pain that I'm going through go in vain or be something that just stays here, because I always found the most healing things for people in their own pain is to help others through theirs. And I think that also involves having conversations that are hard, having conversations that, and I understand, like, social media, it's hard to connect, or, people who are dealing with whether it's their sexuality or their grief, or they're just somebody going through hard things. It's all, there's so much noise. And so for me, in order to have this be at this point in my life fulfilling to me, I have to feel like if there's somebody there and I see them, that they see me, and that is like the fulfillment and where the healing in my life comes from. Because I feel like, yes, with Sailor Song, yes, with any song related to my sister, there's been so much, it's kind of like rubbing over the heart. Like, it feels like that way. And so that's why I do it. And so, of course I've had moments where I'm like, is this too much? Or is this, you know what I mean? Like I talked to my life coach about it. We call her life coach. She was my therapist, but she prefers it. So I'm like, life coach it is.
I like it.
Life coach sounds so, like, I don't know, but she is my life coach. And, we've talked about it, and, like, just do what feels right to you, and, don't think too much about it, because what people think about you is none of your business. Because I understand that, like, the message, and that's why representation is important for people around the world, because your message can only be for whoever is there to catch it.
Yeah.
And there's somebody else that's going to share another message to that person. So my goal is just to continue doing what's being done and like creating that community of healing.
I love that so much. And I am really sorry for your loss. I love that you've shared that though, because like, if you think about it, like I talk about this a lot, like I feel like there is like a loneliness endemic out there, and you're sort of out there like as a helper and reaching out. And Mr. Rogers is like my hero for quotes, but it's look for the helpers, and you truly are one. And I think that's truly unique.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna turn a little bit here. I heard that you just signed to Island Records.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
I'm an Island girl.
Island. I love Island. Island has an incredible history, and you're a part of it now. And I read a quote. I think it was something like, I'm ready for this, and I know what I'm looking for. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I feel the same as whenever I said it. But I felt ready because I think part of me, for when everything started happening again, I probably was independent for maybe 10 months of my life, which seriously, it's such a shocker, like to look back, and I didn't think I was going to be back in it 10 months later, but the way that I am is so different, and that's because of the people. And ultimately that's what my choice came down to, because I feel like I just learned so many things about the music industry and labels and the whole thing, and I'm so grateful for that experience and everything that it taught me. But also for that, I was very slow to process and make decisions. But, I met with Island, and they're incredible. And I think that the values that I have, they align with, and that's the reassurance that I needed to go forward and, really create a family and music together. So I'm really excited.
And family is like clearly important. Your family's on tour with you.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah. I met your mom. She's awesome. She also wanted you to know that you were added to MTV today.
What? That's crazy. That's insane.
It's awesome, right?
That's insane.
So I think you have like this beautiful support around you, and it sort of resonates, and I think that's wonderful. So I have a couple more questions for you. Awesome. I saw you were teasing music, and I'm like, is there anything, I don't want to pry too much, like if you have a new album, is there anything we can know about? I know things are fresh, so you can also say no, whatever you're comfortable with.
I have a song coming out the 25th, I believe, Fable. And that song is about, it's almost like the reaction of everything that came from Sailor Song. But it was so much deeper than that, because I had already been dealing with a lot of different things like shame and confusion and guilt and all these things surrounding God and religion. And then Sailor Song happened, and it, really like hit a sore spot for thousands and thousands of people. So to see that at that overwhelming rate, but I was already dealing with it in my mind. I wasn't expecting, So I think that it was like a little bit of like a breaking point, but in a good way. And it was just a really amazing thing to express, and seeing the way people are connecting with that line, love was the law and religion was taught, it just blew me away. Because I feel like that's such like I don't know, I never thought that there were this many people out there that understood the kind of thing, what this is to walk with this every day. So
yeah, that's the power. Like you're sharing that, and other people probably feel exactly the same way. Like, oh, that hit me,
It's crazy.
That's so cool. Well, Gigi, before I let you go, is there anything else you want our audience to know?
Well, thank you for having me. This has been an amazing experience. I'm really grateful for it. And I'm excited for everything to come.
Well, thank you, Gigi, for being here with The Current. Gigi Perez.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.